This is Gerardo Del Real with Resource Stock Digest. Joining me today is President and CEO of one of the better speculations in the entire junior resource space, Revival Gold, Mr. Hugh Agro. Hugh, how are you this morning?
I'm very well, thanks, Gerardo. Thank you for that introduction.
Well, it's, you and I were talking off air, and I mentioned that, the consensus here lately in the past several months, as far as M&A in the gold space, tends to be about $65 per gold ounce, right? I look at companies like Revival. You're off to a 2 million ounce head start across all categories. You have drills turning. The rocks look good. You've had some excellent results, and you had some news this morning that's very important. You had some metallurgical test results that I know you want to talk about. The rocks can be pretty, and you can have a lot of gold, but if you can't recover it, it is worthless. So let's touch on this morning's news release and talk about what you're seeing thus far.
So this is the normal blocking and tackling that one has to undertake on the path towards a PEA and a feasibility and ultimately operation. It's something that we can do alongside of our drilling and our exploration work, and as you point out, it's key to unlocking value. And what we've set out to do with this initial program of metallurgical test work on sulfide rock at Bear Track was to first of all characterize the material. Second of all, to update ourselves with respect to the historic flotation results, and then thirdly, to look at the path forward and narrow in our focus for the metallurgical work to follow. I can summarize the results, but that was generally the strategy and approach with this initial test work.
Hugh, before you summarize the results, and I'd love for you to do that, can you explain why it was important? You mentioned the approach, but why it's important to do the test work on the sulfide and transitional material, because there's different types of mineralization that are both important to the Revival story. Can you provide a bit of context there?
So we have a total resource, maiden resource at Bear Track of 50 million tons of material, of which about 14 million tons of that material is considered leachable. So that would follow the same sort of track of past production at Bear Track. The remaining 36 million tons are considered mill tons, and we have some historic test work on that sulfide material and transitional material that comprises that 36 million tons. But of course, as we move forward, and in today's day and age, with the regulatory requirements and with the path we're intending to go here, which is to take this into the production, ultimately we need to de-risk, narrow down the focus with respect to the flow sheet for that those mill tons. So hence the work on the sulfide material.
Fantastic. Let's talk about the results. Let's start with the float recoveries. How'd those come in?
So float recoveries came in quite well relative to historic work, and certainly relative to what we would expect and hope to see here at with recoveries across the 6 composite samples, ranging between 83 and 99%. When you include also the leach of the float tails, which is industry standard approach. And from there, what we need to do is get the gold out of the concentrates or sell the concentrates. And we'll explore both of those alternatives in due course. But as we look to the next step in the chain of the flow sheet, what we're looking at is some sort of a pre-oxidizing stage. We had also looked at the possibility of an ultrafine grind of the concentrates, and then a leaching of those concentrates to liberate the gold. And what we found with that testing is that the recoveries overall range from about 49% to 77% for the 6 composites. So that's suggestive to us that we are indeed better off going with a pre-oxidization stage. It's what we assumed in the maiden resource that we put out in May, but we wanted to validate that, make sure we were getting the kind of flow recoveries that made sense, and to make sure we were on the right path with pre-oxidization. So the next step of work for us will be around test work on pressure ox, and also on the Albion process, which came out in the mid-90s, and the Dundee process, which is a little bit earlier, later stage process, both of which have been commercialized. And we'll do test works with the labs on material from across the deposit, rock units, and different grade ranges. And again, the whole objective here is to de-risk the metallurgical aspect, make sure we've got a nice tight flow sheet, and we have the associated cost information, which we can reflect in an updated resource estimate and ultimately PEA, and going forward from there.
Who's doing the work, Hugh?
So this work was done by SGS Labs in Vancouver.
Excellent.
And I think that the lab work that we do going forward, there's lots of different choices for us. Some of them specialize in the different processes more particularly, so we may use a couple of different labs, but we've been really happy with the work from SGS. Historically, the work was done by Hazen and by McLaren, two very good labs in the U.S. So we'll, over the course of the next few months, we'll figure out what makes most sense for the project, and start gathering together the sample material, and go from there.
Well, in the meantime, drilling continues at Bear Track and Arnett. I got to believe that you're hoping the drill bit's adding both leachable and mill ounces. Can we talk about how drilling is progressing?
Yeah, it's going very well. We've got a super team in salmon, and the guys are doing a fantastic job. We've got 3 drill rigs turning, as you know, 2 at Bear Track and the 3rd at Arnett. We'll have we'll have an additional batch of results out from Bear Track in early November. We're into the 3rd hole at Arnett now, and we'll have results out of Arnett in due course. As you recall, there's 7 holes at Arnett we're targeting for this year across about 300 meters of strike. And this is an exciting time. So we'll see how the results come through. But as I said, the team's delivering beautifully, safely, responsibly, and all according to budget and plan. So stay tuned.
Fantastic. I will be at the New Orleans Investment Conference here in a couple of weeks. I believe it's November 1st through the 4th. I understand Revival Gold will be there as well.
We sure will.
Fantastic. Well, Hugh, I'm looking forward to catching up. Thank you for the update today. And of course, I'm looking forward to having you back on as we start getting those assays from the lab.
Thanks, Gerardo.
Appreciate it, Hugh.